A devoted mother performs for a wealthy Arab tycoon in a desperate bid to rescue her son, only to uncover a startling truth. Before we dive into the tale, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What city are you tuning in from? Delight in the tale, everyone. Layla, a single mother and a refugee in Qatar, faced numerous challenges. Every day was a battle to provide sustenance and shield her 3-year-old son from the relentless burden of destitution. She toiled as a waitress in a quaint cafe that attracted tourists, yet her earnings scarcely met her fundamental needs. Upon hearing the cafe owner's announcement about reducing her working hours, a wave of despair washed over her. She had to discover a resolution swiftly, or her son Yusuf would face hunger. One afternoon, while Layla was attending to her tables, she caught sight of a man seated alone in a corner. He radiated an aura of strength and enigma. His immaculate white robe and intense gaze captivated her. His name floated through the air, murmured by the patrons. Khalid al-Fahim, a figure of immense wealth and intrigue in Qatar. Khalid's gaze remained fixed on her. As the cafe drew to a close, an employee made their way to Layla, presenting her with an envelope. "Mr. Al-Fahim requested that I pass this along to you," he mentioned before swiftly departing. With quivering fingers, Layla carefully unsealed the envelope. Within was a concise and straightforward message. "Layla Roshan, I have an idea that may address your challenges. Let's connect tomorrow at 8 p.m. at the location provided below. Arrive by yourself, Khalid Al-Fahim." Her heart pounded with urgency. A proposition from an individual as influential as Khalid could represent the answer to her urgent needs, or it might signal the onset of perilous circumstances. With Yusuf at the forefront of her thoughts, Layla resolved to embrace the uncertainty. The following evening, after tucking Yusuf in for the night, Layla made her way to the location mentioned in the note. The palace stood majestically on the city's edge. A butler guided her to an opulent chamber where Khalid awaited her presence. He acknowledged her presence with a subtle nod and motioned toward a chair positioned before him. "Layla, I appreciate your presence," he started, his voice resonant and steady. "I understand your circumstances and I'm confident that I can assist you." Layla settled into her seat, acutely aware of the significance of the moment. "What is it that you seek from me?" she inquired directly. Khalid inclined his body ever so slightly. "I require a performer." "A performer of movement?" Layla furrowed her brow, deep in thought. "Indeed, for exclusive showcases. My guests hold a deep appreciation for both art and tradition. In exchange, I present a substantial offer, one that guarantees you and your son will never face hardship again." She held her tongue, her heart racing. The proposal appeared simple enough, yet she understood that someone like Khalid wouldn't extend such an invitation without hidden intentions. "What makes me the right choice?" she inquired. Khalid's eyes held a firm intensity. "There's an extraordinary quality about you, a brilliance that is rare, and you radiate beauty." Layla experienced a chilling sensation coursing through her spine. "What are the requirements?" "Uncomplicated. You shall perform solely for my enjoyment and that of my guests. Physical contact is not permitted. All matters will be handled with the utmost professionalism, as specified in the agreement." He deftly pushed a document across the table. Layla swiftly glanced over the clauses, each one more bizarre than the previous. She paused, uncertainty flickering in her mind. The thought of performing for Khalid and his guests filled her with apprehension. Yet the vision of Yusuf suffering from hunger loomed in her thoughts. With a decisive motion, she took the pen and signed without hesitation. "Greetings to my realm, Layla." Khalid offered a subtle smile, an intriguing mix of enigma and peril. Layla was unaware, but that contract would not only secure Yusuf's existence, it would alter the course of their lives in ways she could never imagine. The following evening, Layla returned to the palace, enveloped in a swirl of anxiety and resolve. The burden of the contract loomed larger now that she was on the brink of her inaugural performance. Yet, the image of Yusuf, secure and peacefully resting with a satisfied belly, provided her with unwavering strength. She found herself in an opulent chamber adorned with exquisite traditional dance garments meticulously arranged for her. A dress of emerald hue adorned with golden embroidery and delicate translucent veils glimmered beneath the gentle illumination of the chandeliers. Layla dressed quietly, securing the anklet bells, their soft chime enveloping the room like an opening note. Upon her long-awaited summons, she trailed behind the butler into a magnificent hall, embellished with opulent tapestries and exquisite Persian rugs. Khalid reclined on a sofa, flanked by just two guests, both men exuding an air of distinction and refinement. With a subtle movement of his hand, he indicated for her to start. The music began, a gentle, entrancing tune that drifted like the breeze across the dunes. Layla inhaled deeply and started to advance. Her arms moved gracefully through the air, the veils drifting like gentle waves, as the anklet bells chimed in time with the rhythm. Every motion was intentional, yet flowed with an effortless elegance. Khalid observed her closely, his face betraying no emotion, yet his eyes hinted at a deeper narrative, curiosity, admiration, and perhaps an enigmatic feeling that eluded his own comprehension. Layla danced not just out of duty but as if she were weaving a narrative with each movement. With each turn, she recalled her path to that instant, her fight for existence, and her deep affection for her child. Her dance captured a blend of power and fragility, and even in silence, she was aware of the message she conveyed. As the final notes faded away, Layla offered a graceful bow and paused in anticipation. The quiet in the room was interrupted by the soft sound of Khalid's clapping. Her performance garnered subtle admiration from the guests, who mirrored each other's sentiments. "Remarkable," Khalid remarked, finally standing up. "You have surpassed what I anticipated, Layla." Even in the face of praise, Layla maintained her poise. "Thank you, Mr. Khalid," she responded with conviction. Before departing, Khalid leaned in and spoke softly, as if sharing a secret. "Your performance tonight was impressive. Continue on this path, and this setup will be advantageous for us both." Layla nodded quietly and exited the room, feeling a sense of relief after finishing her first night. As she returned to her designated room, Layla encountered a woman of remarkable presence. Her defined features and intense gaze appeared to examine every nuance. Safia, Khalid's cousin, openly expressed her disapproval with a piercing glare directed at Layla. "So you're the one dancing for Khalid?" Safia remarked with a chilling, sarcastic edge. "I trust you understand your role." Layla maintained her poise. "My home is wherever my son feels secure and nourished." Safia arched an eyebrow, taken aback by the resolute reply. "Let's observe how enduring you are." Layla stood her ground, unyielding in the face of intimidation. She understood that challenges lay ahead, yet nothing would sway her from her objective. In the solitude of her room, Layla positioned herself before the mirror, methodically taking off her accessories. Her reflection showed a weary yet resolute woman. She thought of Yusuf's face and couldn't help but let a small smile escape her lips. Downstairs, Khalid remained in the room, now by himself. His eyes remained fixed on the vacant spot where Layla had twirled just moments before, deep in contemplation. There was an undeniable quality about her that captivated him profoundly, something he found impossible to overlook. The third night arrived swiftly, and Layla was starting to adapt to the opulence of the palace. Yet, in spite of the lavish environment, she understood that with each step she took, she was plunging further into a mysterious and perilous realm. This occasion, the hall radiated an even greater splendor, aglow with the brilliance of crystal chandeliers. Khalid, positioned at the heart of the scene, found himself in solitude. The lack of visitors piqued her curiosity, yet she refrained from inquiring. She gracefully arranged her veils, poised and ready for the music to commence. The initial chords resonated, gentle like a whispering wind across the sands. Layla commenced her performance, every movement executed with precision and grace. The stillness in the room felt heavy, interrupted solely by the soft tinkling of her ankle bells. Khalid observed her closely, his deep gaze tracking each turn and every elegant movement. As the final notes faded away, Layla gracefully performed her usual bow. Khalid gazed at her for a brief moment before standing up and moving closer to her. "You move as though you bear the burden of countless tales," he murmured softly. Layla took a deep breath. "My narrative holds no significance. I am present to execute the agreement." Khalid arched an eyebrow, seemingly taken aback by the unexpected directness of the reply. He inclined his head just a bit, as though attempting to unravel her mystery. At times, a contract transcends mere words on a page, he whispered before departing. Layla experienced a chilling sensation coursing down her spine. As she exited the hall, those words reverberated in her mind. But her reflections were abruptly halted when she crossed paths with Safia in the corridor once more. Safia, her gaze icy and a smirk playing on her lips, stood in Layla's way. "Do you believe you truly understand Khalid? Don't be deceived. He harbors numerous mysteries. I'm not interested in his secrets," Layla stated with conviction, striving to maintain her composure. Safia released a quick, sharp laugh. "Lack of knowledge can be perilous, particularly for an individual of your caliber." Before Layla had a chance to reply, Safia turned and walked away, leaving a palpable tension of distrust in the air. Later that night, Layla perceived the sound of footsteps echoing in the hallway beyond her door. Intrigued, she cracked the door open and caught sight of Khalid making his way toward a hidden section of the palace. Curious, she trailed him quietly, remaining concealed in the darkness. He stepped into the room, yet Layla's view remained obscured. Yet she could catch snippets of a discussion. Khalid's voice carried a rich depth, tempered with restraint. She remains unaware, at least for now. Layla couldn't grasp the entirety, yet those words sowed a seed of uncertainty within her thoughts. Who was Khalid, in truth? What had led him to select her for this position in his life? As Khalid exited the room, Layla hurried back to her quarters, inhaling deeply to steady her nerves. She sensed that a secret was being withheld from her, a revelation that had the power to alter everything. The following morning, Khalid extended an invitation for a casual gathering in the palace garden. He seemed at ease, clad in airy attire, yet his eyes held the burden of unspoken secrets. "Layla," he started as they strolled leisurely through the blossoms. "What made you agree to my proposal?" She paused, contemplating her response. "My son is my world. I will do whatever it takes to ensure he has a better life." Khalid nodded, as though he had foreseen her reply. "The strength of a mother's love is undeniable. Yet I find myself pondering, what are you prepared to give up for him?" Layla paused and met his gaze directly. "All of it, down to the final fragment of my being." They paused in quietude, and Layla caught a glimpse of a fleeting emotion in Khalid's gaze. Maybe admiration, maybe something deeper. "Then I trust you won't ever need to demonstrate it," he remarked, his voice enigmatic. Before Layla had the chance to inquire about his meaning, Khalid deftly shifted the conversation and led her back to the palace. As the night deepened, Layla pondered all that had transpired. She sensed that Khalid was concealing something, and it disturbed her. Yet, her focus stayed firmly on Yusuf. If remaining steadfast in this agreement meant ensuring her son's safety, she would persevere, even if the price was higher than she had expected. Outside, Khalid stood by a large window, his gaze fixed on the full moon, hands clasped behind his back. He couldn't ignore the fact that Layla was unique, a person who pushed against his meticulously crafted illusion of control. She served as a poignant reminder that the past always lingers just beneath the surface. As the night deepened, the secrets they held began to intertwine, much like the veils Layla donned during her dances, fragile yet rich with concealed significance. Layla rose with the dawn, yet the tranquility was fleeting. As she carefully arranged the scarf over her hair in front of the mirror, a sudden, sharp knock resonated through the door. Before a reply could escape her lips, Safia barged in uninvited, her eyes sharp and unyielding. "I see you've adapted quickly to this place," Safia remarked, crossing her arms. "However, don't be deceived. You are merely a replaceable pawn in Khalid's strategy." Layla inhaled slowly, choosing to remain unresponsive to the bitterness laced in the woman's remarks. His reasons are his own and they don't involve you. Safia moved in, her gaze sharpening with intensity. You believe you understand his true nature, yet you are pursuing a mere mirage. Khalid will never allow someone like you to get near him. Layla maintained her stare, a simmering frustration bubbling up inside her. I prefer to keep my distance from Khalid. My presence is solely for the benefit of my son. Nothing else matters. Safia's mocking laughter reverberated throughout the space. We'll see how long that deception lasts. Later, Layla endeavored to concentrate on her dance lessons. The choreographer, an exacting figure, refined each movement with meticulous attention. Yet Safia's unwavering presence lingered like a shadow, her words resonating in Layla's thoughts. Yet Layla understood that she must not waver. Every refined action brought Yusuf one step nearer to safety. That evening, Khalid curated a cozy dinner gathering for a chosen circle of guests. Layla received another call to showcase her talents. The hall was filled with candles, their soft light casting a gentle radiance on the faces of everyone gathered. Safia stood there, her victorious demeanor hinting at a scheme she had devised. Layla started to dance, concentrating on each and every movement. The melodies enveloped the hall, conjuring an enchanting ambience. As she spun gracefully, her gaze locked with Khalid's. His gaze held an unsettling quality, as if it pierced through the surface of the dancer standing before him. As the performance concluded, the audience offered a courteous round of applause. Yet Safia stood up and approached Khalid, completely disregarding Layla. What a stunning presentation, don't you think? She commented, her smile frosty. Indeed, it was. Khalid responded with a composed demeanor, his gaze still fixed on Layla. Safia observed and sealed her lips tightly. I trust you have a plan, cousin. A woman of her caliber is out of place in this world. Khalid glanced at Safia, his demeanor shifting to one of resolve. And which realm is that? A realm where we assess without truly comprehending. Layla possesses a level of dignity that surpasses that of many who enter this space. Safia became quiet, yet her fury was unmistakable. She exited the hall, a palpable tension lingering in her wake. In the days that followed, Layla made every effort to steer clear of Safia, yet the woman always appeared to be hovering in the vicinity. On a quiet evening, Layla discovered a letter tucked beneath her door. The note was brief and menacing. Exercise caution in choosing whom to place your trust in. That hidden truth might come with a hefty price. Layla experienced a twist in her stomach. She was certain Safia was the one orchestrating it all. Yet she couldn't fathom how the woman had unearthed so many details about her life. Resolute in her mission to safeguard Yusuf, Layla headed directly to confront Khalid. He sat in his study, enveloped by stacks of papers, yet his gaze lifted the moment she walked in. I must have a word with you, Layla stated with conviction. Khalid nodded, inviting her to take a seat with a subtle gesture. Layla paused for a moment, then chose to be direct. My cousin Safia is attempting to intimidate me. I'm uncertain about her intentions, but I must ensure this doesn't impact my son. Khalid's brow knitted together, his demeanor growing more intense. Safia lacks any power in this situation. I will take care of her. Is that something you can assure me of? Layla confronted, her gaze fierce with resolve. I cannot jeopardize Yusuf's safety. Khalid maintained her gaze for an extended moment before he replied. Layla, I promise you this. While you remain within these walls, you and your son are safe from harm. Even with his authoritative demeanor, Layla understood that the situation was far from straightforward. Safia was determined and relentless. Later that night, Safia encountered a mysterious figure in a hidden alcove of the palace. I want Layla exposed, she declared, passing him an envelope. Take every necessary step to ensure her departure from this place. The figure nodded and slipped away into the darkness. Safia smiled, certain that Layla's time was almost up. Layla, on the other hand, was not one to retreat. Her nurturing instincts and steadfast resolve equipped her for whatever challenges lay ahead. Khalid, however, was starting to realize that Layla was far from an ordinary woman. She possessed a resilience that challenged all that surrounded her, even him. At the heart of it all, destiny appeared to be intertwining their lives in an unbreakable connection. Layla delicately arranged her veils, her fingers quivering with anticipation. Safia's subtle menace lingered in her thoughts, yet she refused to succumb to fear. As she strolled down the corridor leading to the grand hall, her mind lingered on Yusuf's face. With each step she took in that opulent setting, her thoughts were solely for him. Her dance transcended mere performance. It became a testament to resilience. As Layla stepped into the hall, a palpable weight hung in the air. Khalid found himself once more perched solitary on his familiar divan. The stillness shattered by the gentle tinkle of the bells adorning her ankles as she assumed her stance. A delicate motion from him signaled the start of the music, which enveloped the space in a mesmerizing tune. Layla's movements were deliberate, yet her heart pounded with intensity. Her thoughts fought to remain anchored in the now, even as the burden of her anxieties loomed large, threatening to engulf her. For her, the dance transcended mere obligation. It served as a medium to convey the turmoil and optimism she held deep inside. Khalid, in contrast, observed her with an intense concentration. He appeared entranced, as if every movement she made unveiled a hidden depth he had yet to discover. A quiet bond existed between them, an unexplainable yet undeniable force that Layla felt deeply. Following the dance, Khalid made his way toward her, his silence speaking volumes. He paused mere steps from her, his gaze fixed intently on hers. "You possess a strength that belies your appearance," he remarked, his voice carrying both insight and praise. Layla chose to stay quiet. She was at a loss for words. She was present solely to honor her commitment, but Khalid's fervor made her uneasy. He continued, "You move as if you bear the burden of something far more significant. What fuels that resilience within you?" She paused before responding, "My son. He's the reason for everything." Khalid nodded slowly, conveying a depth of understanding that surpassed her expectations. "Yusuf is fortunate to have you as his mother." Layla averted her gaze, a swirl of pride and vulnerability coursing through her. Before she had a chance to reply, Khalid interjected, "Safia will no longer pose an issue. I made a vow to safeguard you and your child, and I intend to honor that promise." His voice carried a genuine tone, yet Layla understood that mere words would not suffice. Safia was a force to be reckoned with, and she had to remain constantly vigilant. Later that night, Layla received an urgent summons to Yusuf's room. The young lad was engulfed in a feverish haze, his frail form shivering under the weight of the blankets. In a moment of urgency, Layla gently pressed a damp cloth to his forehead, murmuring soothing words to ease his distress. Khalid arrived at the door shortly after, clearly concerned by Layla's turmoil. "What's happening?" he inquired, entering the room. "He has a fever," Layla said, her voice quivering with concern. "I must bring him to a physician." Khalid waved his hand briskly, calling over one of his aides. "Get the car ready right away. We need to transport them to the finest hospital in the city." Layla gazed at Khalid, her expression a mix of astonishment and appreciation. In spite of all odds, he stepped forward to offer his assistance. Moments later, they were en route to the hospital, Layla grasping Yusuf's tiny hand throughout the journey. At the hospital, Yusuf received prompt treatment, and the doctor provided reassurance that it was nothing serious. The doctor advised that it's merely a high fever. All he requires is rest and ample fluids before they were discharged. In the palace once more, Layla gently placed Yusuf in bed and settled beside him, her gaze fixed on his peaceful slumber. Khalid stood at the door, quiet, honoring the significance of the moment. "Thank you," Layla finally said, her gaze fixed elsewhere. "For all things." Khalid responded, "No need for thanks. I acted as anyone else would have in that situation." Layla released a soft sigh. Not all would. Khalid ventured a few steps into the room, pausing just shy of drawing nearer. "Yusuf holds significance for you, which in turn makes him significant to me too." Layla finally turned her gaze toward him, a look of confusion on her face. His expression held a mystery that eluded her understanding. Khalid appeared genuine, but there was an underlying melancholy that contrasted with his commanding presence. "What is the reason behind all of this?" she inquired, shattering the stillness. Khalid paused briefly before responding. "Maybe it's because you evoke memories of something I once had and have since lost." The words lingered, thick with significance. Layla found herself at a loss for words, yet sensed that Khalid was, in a certain manner, allowing her a glimpse into his soul, uncovering the depths he usually concealed from everyone else. That night, Layla hardly found rest. Khalid's voice resonated within her thoughts, intertwining with her own uncertainties and anxieties. She understood that her standing in the palace was fragile, yet she was beginning to feel that something more profound was taking shape. Meanwhile, downstairs, Khalid lingered in his study, his gaze locked onto an aged photograph cradled in his hands. A cheerful woman cradled a little child in the image. He traced his thumb along the contours of her face, his gaze heavy with nostalgia. He whispered a vow to himself, a quiet promise to never allow this to occur again, before carefully placing the photo out of sight and extinguishing the lights. Destiny appeared resolute in weaving the paths of Layla and Khalid even closer, yet the challenges that awaited them would truly test their resilience and beliefs. The palace's golden lights shimmered against the frigid marble walls as Layla strolled down the grand corridor. Her footsteps resonated in the silence, yet her thoughts were consumed by Yusuf and Khalid. Her unwavering worry for her son's safety now intertwined with Khalid's mysterious phrases. "You evoke memories of something I once had." As she rounded the corner, her musings were abruptly halted by the sight of Safiya standing before her. Khalid's cousin wore an elegant outfit, yet her eyes were like daggers, piercing and brimming with contempt. "You've managed to seize Khalid's interest," Safiya remarked with a sly grin. "But don't be deceived, Layla. He may appear benevolent, yet he is merciless when it comes to safeguarding his image." "I'm not seeking anyone's validation here," Layla asserted, remaining resolute. "My focus is solely on my son." Safiya advanced, her tone soft yet heavy with threat. "Choose your words wisely. You are engaging with powers beyond your comprehension." Layla locked eyes with Safiya, but just as she was about to reply, Khalid emerged in the corridor. His brisk pace hinted that he had caught wind of some of the conversation. "Safiya," he called, his voice a blend of softness and authority. "Could we have a moment alone to talk?" Layla stayed put, her gaze fixed on Safiya as she departed with Khalid. The atmosphere crackled with intensity. A moment of great importance was on the horizon, and Layla understood the necessity of remaining alert. Khalid guided Safiya into a palace office, closing the door softly behind them. His typically calm expression now displayed an unusual severity. "I need you to cease your plotting, Safiya," he declared, arms crossed defiantly. "I'm just looking out for our family," Safiya said, her chin held high in defiance. "Layla poses a danger to all that we have created." Khalid squinted, his gaze sharpening. "Layla poses no danger. She is a mother striving to safeguard her child, a concept that seems lost on you." "She's an outsider," Safiya retorted, her voice filled with fury. "Do you have more faith in her than in your own family?" Khalid stated with conviction. "I trust her because she has demonstrated her loyalty. And you've only provided me with reasons to doubt yours." Safiya's complexion dulled for a brief moment, yet she swiftly restored her poise. "Continuing to support her will only tarnish our family's reputation." "That's sufficient," Khalid interrupted her, his tone cutting and precise. "If you dare to threaten Layla or Yusuf once more, I will be left with no option but to expel you from this palace permanently." A thick silence enveloped the space as Safiya suddenly exited, leaving Khalid to grapple with his own reflections. In the quiet of her room, Layla watched as Yusuf engaged with the small wooden blocks that Khalid had thoughtfully sent for him. She observed her son, yet her mind kept drifting back to Khalid. He was a figure of complexity, at times nurturing, at others aloof, yet perpetually enveloped in enigma. As the knock echoed through the room, she steeled herself for the impending chaos. Yet it was Khalid. Could I have a moment of your time to talk? He inquired, lingering at the threshold. Layla gave a slight nod, indicating that he was welcome to come in. Khalid entered the room, maintaining a respectful distance. I want you to know that you're safe here, he said, sincerity shining in his eyes. I will not permit Sophia or anyone else to intimidate you or Yusuf. Thank you for that, Layla said, crossing her arms. Yet, I find myself pondering the reasons behind your eagerness to shield us. Khalid let out a soft sigh, momentarily diverting his eyes before locking them onto hers once more. Because you evoke memories of something I once had, he said, his voice now filled with feeling. Years ago, my wife left this world, taking with her my dreams of having a family. Your determination to fight for your son serves as a poignant reminder of what is truly important. Layla held her tongue, Khalid's words resonating with her in an unforeseen manner. His confession held a certain authenticity, a quality that stirred her desire to trust him. Thank you, she murmured gently at last. Khalid offered a subtle smile. Take a moment to recharge, Layla. Tomorrow promises to be a significant day. The following morning, Sophia, still seething from Khalid's reprimand, plotted in secrecy. In her room, she meticulously examined the plans with the enigmatic figure she had encountered earlier. It all has to be flawless, she insisted, passing him a folder filled with papers. I desire to see Layla revealed once and for all. Outside, a palace guard caught wind of their conversation and swiftly relayed the information to Khalid. Upon hearing the news, Khalid instantly grasped that Sophia was prepared to go to any lengths to attain her ambitions. He understood the urgency of taking action before the situation escalated further. As dusk settled, Khalid called for Layla to join him in the grand hall. She experienced a sense of tension yet chose to accept the invitation. Upon her arrival, Khalid moved toward her with a fierce resolve in his gaze. Layla, I want you to understand that you are not facing this battle by yourself, he stated with conviction. I will ensure that you and Yusuf are safe from any harm. Layla gazed at him, sensing the gravity of his words. I truly hope you're correct, Khalid, as I've experienced loss before. I cannot bear the thought of losing my son. Khalid nodded, and I refused to allow that to occur. That night signaled the dawn of a fresh conflict, where allegiances would be challenged and hidden truths would at last emerge. The palace was shrouded in an eerie stillness. Following the decision to have Sophia monitored, Khalid made his way to the reading room, a space where echoes of the past frequently lingered. Layla, in the quiet of her room, felt an inexplicable tension weighing heavily upon her. A whisper within her urged that she stood at the brink of revealing truths capable of transforming everything. As the evening wore on, Khalid penned a note inviting Layla to join him in the main hall. Upon her arrival, he was positioned by a grand fireplace, his gaze entranced by the dancing flames. Layla, I appreciate your presence, he remarked, his gaze fixed on the flames. Why did you call me? She inquired, her arms crossed defensively. Khalid pivoted gradually, his demeanor grave. There are aspects of my journey that you should understand. My history, my heartaches. They bear a greater burden on us than you might think. Layla furrowed her brow, a look of bewilderment crossing her face. If it's something that could impact us, I feel entitled to be informed. He inclined his head and motioned for her to take a seat. Many years ago, I experienced the tragic loss of my wife in an accident. It was a moment that dismantled all my notions of safety. Since that time, I've isolated myself from everything around me, determined not to allow anyone to draw near. Yet your arrival changed everything. Layla sensed a coldness in the air yet remained quiet, her focus unwavering. You are more than a mere dancer in my palace, Layla. You've restored something I believed was gone for good. Hope, Khalid continued, his voice gentle. Your determination in standing up for Yusuf serves as a poignant reminder of the essence of what is truly important in life. Your struggles resonate with me, yet I also perceive a strength within you that I have long since abandoned. Why are you sharing all of this with me now? Layla inquired, struggling to comprehend the gravity of his statements. Khalid moved in, his gaze fixed intently on hers. In order to ensure the safety of both you and your son, it's essential that you place your full trust in me. To achieve that, it's essential to grasp the complete reality. Layla remained quiet while Khalid continued speaking. He disclosed that his wife's demise was not merely an accident, but rather the outcome of a web of intrigue woven within his own family. This clarified his reasons for keeping a watchful eye on Safia and his unwavering commitment to safeguarding Layla. My family has always been unaccepting of my wife. She hailed from a background that lacked the prestige they deemed necessary. And to them that was simply intolerable, Khalid remarked, his tone laden with resentment. We faced the consequences of our rebellion, and she paid the ultimate price. Layla experienced a tightness in her throat. She had never envisioned that Khalid bore such profound sorrow. So, you believe Safia will treat me the same way? It's not about contemplation, Layla. Khalid acknowledged with a simple, I know. She has already demonstrated her readiness to do whatever it takes to eliminate you. That's why you should always remain vigilant. Rely solely on me. Khalid's words lingered, charged with a palpable intensity. Layla was caught in a conflict. On one hand, she yearned to trust that his words were genuine. On the other hand, trusting him meant surrendering her destiny to a man cloaked in mysteries. The following morning, Layla resolved to uncover the truth by herself. Once she confirmed Yusuf's safety, she made her way through the palace to the quiet wing where Khalid stored his personal documents and possessions. She felt a strong urge to uncover more about the man who had vowed to safeguard her family. As Layla stepped into the room, her gaze fell upon a photo album resting on the table. It featured pictures of Khalid with a cheerful woman and a young boy. The joy radiating from their faces stood in stark contrast to the solemn expression that now adorned Khalid's features. While she perused the album, a letter slipped out unexpectedly. Layla grasped it and perused the carefully penned words. A poignant farewell note from Khalid's wife, composed just before her passing. My beloved Khalid, I understand that our love will encounter challenges, but always remember the foundation we have created together. Safeguard our loved ones, no matter the sacrifice required. With everlasting affection, Amal. Layla's eyes brimmed with tears as she absorbed the words on the page. Finally, she grasped the weight that Khalid bore. He was doing more than merely safeguarding her. He sought to make amends for a past failure he had been powerless to avert. Eventually, Khalid discovered Layla seated serenely in the garden. He moved toward her with deliberate slowness, sensing that a shift had occurred. You read the letter, Khalid stated with a straightforwardness that left no room for interpretation. Layla gave a subtle nod. Now I see the reasoning behind your actions. Yet it remains true that we find ourselves entangled in a perilous situation. Khalid let out a deep breath, settling himself next to her. I wish for you to avoid the experiences that Amal faced. I wish to hold on to everyone in my life. What are our next steps? Layla inquired, her gaze brimming with resolve. Khalid gazed at the horizon as the sun started its descent, painting the sky with warm hues. We stand strong, and we will not allow anyone to seize what belongs to us. That evening, Layla exuded a newfound assurance. For the first time, she perceived Khalid not as a distant and enigmatic figure, but as a person who bore the same pain and strength that she felt within herself. In the face of peril, she believed that united, they could conquer any challenge that lay ahead. As Layla tucked Yusuf into bed, Khalid, situated in a different section of the palace, started to formulate a strategy. He was aware that Safia still possessed her cunning strategies, yet he was prepared to go to any lengths to safeguard Layla and Yusuf. The elements were set in motion, and destiny was about to challenge each of them. Layla stirred from her slumber, a feeling of discomfort settling in her chest. The palace, typically tranquil at dawn, appeared shrouded in an oppressive unease. While she put on her clothes, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. As she opened the door, a maid with a ghostly complexion stood before her, cautioning, Miss Safia is scheming something. Exercise caution. The atmosphere crackled with tension, yet Layla willed herself to remain composed. She understood that Safia was not one to back down, and all she could do was brace herself for whatever lay ahead. In due course, Khalid called for Layla to come to his office. He sat at a dark wooden desk, enveloped by a sea of documents. His eyes, typically serene, now betrayed a worry he attempted to hide. Khalid stated plainly that he has received information indicating that Safia is leveraging her influence to undermine you. She has submitted a dossier to the local authorities, alleging that you have disrespected traditions and sullied the palace's reputation. Layla sensed the earth tremble beneath her. This situation could jeopardize my safety, as well as Yusuf's. I understand, Khalid responded, his tone unwavering, but I've already implemented steps. Please have faith in me. Trust is not something I can offer so readily. Layla retorted, a sharp edge to her voice. Khalid leaned in, his gaze locked onto hers. I understand that this is challenging, but remember, you have support in this journey. I shall safeguard you, Layla, regardless of the sacrifice required. In a different section of the palace, Safia strolled through the corridor alongside a man whose demeanor was modest yet menacing. She guided him into a secluded room, where she handed him a substantial envelope. Take any action required, she commanded. I demand that Layla be removed from this palace by the week's end. The man inclined his head and melted away into the darkness. Safia beamed, certain that her scheme was on the verge of triumph. That evening, Layla experienced a sense of unease. A deep instinct within her compelled her to take action before the moment slipped away. She chose to face Safia head-on, fully aware of the potential consequences. Once she confirmed Yusuf's safety, she made her way down the corridor toward Safia's quarters. As she stepped inside, she discovered the woman poised before a mirror, meticulously arranging her dazzling jewelry. Text, I see you've come to confront me, Safia said, not even turning around. What is the reason behind this action? Layla inquired, her tone laden with feeling. Safia finally rose, pivoting to confront her. Your presence is not meant for this place. Khalid is part of my family, and you are merely an outsider, diverting him from his genuine obligations. I'm not here for Khalid, Layla replied, her words laced with fury. I'm here for my son, navigating through life's challenges. This is not related to you in any way. Safia advanced, her eyes icy. Every occurrence within these walls is my concern, and I will not allow your presence to tarnish our standing. Just as Layla was about to reply, the door to the room swung open with a sudden force. Khalid stepped inside, his gaze aflame with rage. Safia, that's enough, he thundered, his voice reverberating throughout the room. Safia stood still, visibly taken aback by her cousin's unexpected entrance. Khalid moved forward until he stood directly in front of her. If I discover that you have taken any additional steps against Layla or Yusuf, you will be exiled from this palace, and this time, there will be no opportunity for redemption. Safia sealed her lips, choosing silence over words. Khalid then shifted his gaze to Layla. Join us. This place isn't secure for you. Layla paused for a moment, yet ultimately decided to follow him. As they strolled through the corridors, Khalid remarked, Safia is completely unruly. I must confront her decisively and put an end to this matter. What are your strategies for achieving that? Layla inquired, her worry palpable. Khalid paused and faced her. I will be gathering the family council. It is essential for them to understand the lengths to which Safia is prepared to venture. For now, I need you to keep your distance from her. In the days that ensued, the ambience within the palace became increasingly charged. Safia seemed more subdued, yet Layla understood it was simply the quiet before the upheaval. Khalid found himself in a state of constant distraction, immersed in preparations for the council meeting. One evening, Layla received a call to the main hall for an important meeting with Khalid. Upon her arrival, she discovered him positioned next to two individuals who seemed to be part of the family council. They conversed in hushed tones, but their words faded into silence upon noticing her presence. Khalid introduced the men, saying, Layla, I want you to meet Mr. Abbas and Mr. Rashid. The council members have arrived to assess the situation at hand. Layla offered her greeting, yet an unsettling shiver coursed through her. Abbas' intense gaze appeared to penetrate her very being, while Rashid kept a composed demeanor. "We are committed to making sure that all matters are settled justly," Abbas stated with a firm tone. "We have confidence that you will work with us." Layla merely nodded, conscious that each word and movement of hers would be closely examined. As Khalid and the council deliberated on their forthcoming actions, Safia was scheming her ultimate strategy. In a hidden chamber, she meticulously examined damning papers that could serve as evidence against Layla. Her strategy was clear-cut. Convey the details straight to the authorities, guaranteeing Layla's removal from the country and, ideally, severing her ties with Yusuf for good. However, Khalid had foreseen this action. He dispatched one of his most reliable associates to seize the documents before they fell into the wrong hands. Upon making this discovery, Safia felt a surge of anger, yet she realized there was little she could do without revealing her true self. The following morning, Khalid gathered everyone in the grand hall. The family council was in attendance, along with Safia and Layla. The atmosphere in the room crackled with intensity as Khalid moved to the center, his stance firm and authoritative. "It's time to settle this definitively," he declared with conviction. "Safia has taken actions that threaten the safety and dignity of this palace, putting Layla and Yusuf at risk." Safia attempted to speak up for herself, but Khalid lifted his hand, bringing her words to a halt. "Your excuses have no place here," he continued. "Your actions have shattered our family's trust and put lives at risk. Your destiny lies in the hands of the council." Layla observed quietly as the council members engaged in their discussions. At last, Abbas rose and proclaimed, "We concur that Safia should be expelled from the palace. Her behavior is intolerable, and the safety of the family should be the top priority." With a surge of determination, Safia burst out of the hall, her gaze fixed ahead, refusing to glance back. Khalid let out a breath, feeling a wave of relief as he moved closer to Layla. "You're safe now," he assured. Yet Layla understood that, despite Safia's absence, the obstacles were just beginning. In the stillness of the night, Layla stirred from her slumber, drawn to an unfamiliar sound echoing through the hallway. Her heart raced as she rose and cautiously opened the door to glance outside. Two figures clad in dark uniforms advanced, trailed by Safia, her smile as frosty as the air around her. Just as Layla was about to shut the door, they caught sight of her. "Layla Roshan," one of the men inquired, his tone resolute. "You are requested to appear before the authorities." "What is the accusation against me?" Layla inquired, her concern evident yet her demeanor steady. The man responded with a blank face, disregarding the moral laws of the nation. "You must join us." Just as Layla was about to reply, Khalid emerged in the hallway. His rage was unmistakable, and his authoritative demeanor caused the men to falter. "What does this signify?" Khalid commanded, his voice resonating with power. "A formal complaint has been received," one of the officials stated. "We are simply adhering to directives." Khalid advanced, his commanding presence striking fear into the hearts of the men. "Who gave the green light for this action? I would like to review the documents." The officer presented Khalid with a document, which he swiftly examined, his gaze sharpening with every line. He was certain this was Safia's handiwork, despite her name being absent from any mention. "This is absurd," Khalid declared, ripping the paper in two. "Layla is my guest, and I will ensure that she remains safe and protected while she is here." The officers cast wary looks at one another, yet Safia moved ahead with determination. "The law takes precedence over any hospitality, Khalid," she remarked with a wicked grin. "She can't be shielded from everything indefinitely." "That's enough, Safia," Khalid bellowed, his voice reverberating down the hallway. "Your actions have already caused enough damage to Layla. If you persist in this folly, you will encounter the repercussions." The officers, recognizing Khalid's steadfast position, chose to retreat for the time being, yet they emphasized that the inquiry would persist. Under the cover of darkness, Khalid assembled his loyal companions. Safia has crossed the line, he remarked, walking back and forth in his study. She's prepared to ruin Layla just to reach me. What actions should we take? A question was posed by one of the men. Khalid paused, gazing out the window. We must uncover evidence that will fully reveal her true nature. Something that will demonstrate to the authorities that the claims against Layla are unfounded, and that Safia is the actual wrongdoer. In the meantime, Layla found herself in her room, attempting to comfort Yusuf, who had stirred awake, alarmed by the noise. "Mommy's here," she whispered, cradling him gently. "We are safe and nothing will come our way." Yet, beneath the surface, Layla sensed that peril lurked nearer than it ever had before. She understood that Khalid was exerting every effort to safeguard them, yet she was acutely aware that Safia would not relent until she was utterly vanquished. The following morning, Layla received a summons to the main hall. Khalid awaited her arrival, his demeanor grave. "We need to talk," he said, motioning toward a chair. Layla settled into her chair, acutely aware of the gravity of the moments ahead. What transpired? "The authorities are continuing their investigation," Khalid noted, "yet Safia is resorting to underhanded tactics. She presented forged documents and allegations that could exacerbate your circumstances. What if they trust her?" Layla inquired, her voice quivering. "Is Yusuf in peril?" Khalid paused, his eyes fluttering shut for a brief moment before he responded. "I assure you that he will be safe, but we must approach this with careful planning. We will confront this as a united front." While Layla endeavored to maintain her composure, Khalid pressed on with his inquiry. He was aware that Safia had concocted false evidence, yet he required something tangible to substantiate his claims. Utilizing his network, he managed to intercept a message that Safia had dispatched to her associate. The communication was unmistakable. "Ensure that Layla faces formal charges. If needed, create supporting proof." Armed with this knowledge, Khalid felt a surge of confidence, aware that he held the advantage. He organized a gathering with the officials to unveil Safia and safeguard Layla. Just hours prior to the meeting, Layla found herself once more confronted by the officers. This time, they came equipped with an official arrest warrant. Khalid attempted to step in, yet the men were resolute in their intent to seize her. "Please take care of Yusuf," Layla said to Khalid as she was led out of the palace. "Promise me that he will be protected." "I promise," Khalid replied, his expression serious. Layla found herself in a local prison, a stark and lonely environment. Her cell was cramped, featuring a metal bed and a minuscule window that allowed just a sliver of light to seep in. She perched on the slender mattress, battling to contain her tears. Outside, Khalid leaped into action. He collected the evidence against Safia and submitted it to the officials. The situation shifted dramatically when Safia received a summons to testify. Enraged, she attempted to refute all claims, yet the proof was irrefutable. "You tried to implicate an innocent woman," Khalid stated during the hearing, "and for that you will face consequences." The authorities opted to release Layla as they pursued a more thorough investigation into Safia's actions. Khalid took it upon himself to fetch her. As Layla stepped out of her cell, she spotted Khalid standing there, waiting for her. He appeared to be relieved, yet a hint of concern still danced in his eyes. "Are you doing all right?" he inquired softly, tenderly grasping her arm. "Indeed," Layla responded, albeit her voice was faint. "What about Yusuf?" Khalid reassured her that he was safe. "Let us return to our abode." As they journeyed back to the palace, Layla was lost in thought, grappling with the weight of recent events. Upon their arrival, Yusuf dashed into her embrace, and Layla clutched him fiercely, silently promising to do everything in her power to keep him safe. Khalid observed the unfolding scene from afar, sensing a burden ease from his shoulders. Yet, he understood that the struggle was far from finished. Safia would confront the consequences of her actions, and he would exhaust every effort to guarantee that Layla and Yusuf could find tranquility in their lives. The following morning unfolded with a serene stillness, yet Layla remained burdened by the echoes of the recent days. Even with her return to the palace, the shadow of Safia's impending danger loomed large. Yusuf frolicked in the garden, watched over by a maid, as Layla strolled leisurely through the corridors. She received a summons to the grand hall, where Khalid awaited her arrival. He reclined in an armchair by the window, his eyes fixed on the far-off desert. As Layla walked in, he rose, his stance rigid. "We need to have a conversation," he stated, his tone steady and composed. Layla acknowledged with a nod and settled into a chair close by. "Concerning what topic?" Khalid inhaled deeply before he began to speak. "Your arrival at the palace has influenced me in ways I never anticipated. I made an effort to maintain a sense of professionalism, yet I can no longer overlook my emotions." Layla gazed at him, taken aback, yet remained silent. Khalid pressed on. "Layla, you possess great strength. Your unwavering resolve to safeguard Yusuf, your bravery amidst all that you have faced. It brought to light aspects I had long hidden away. I am no longer the person I used to be before I lost everyone. Yet in your presence, I sensed the possibility of a fresh beginning." His words took her breath away. Layla was aware of Khalid's gentle and safeguarding nature, yet she had never envisioned that he could harbor feelings for her. "Khalid, Layla started, but her words trailed off. She struggled to collect her thoughts, yet the weight of the moment rendered it challenging. "I understand this may feel like a lot to handle at the moment," Khalid remarked, shattering the stillness. "However, I felt it was essential to be truthful. I understand that you may need some time to respond. Layla, I simply wish to share the feelings that reside within me." Layla averted her eyes, overwhelmed by a tempest of feelings. In the end, she finally admitted, "All my actions have been for Yusuf. Yet, in some way, you have woven yourself into that tapestry. I find myself at a loss, Khalid. My life has been a whirlwind, leaving me uncertain about trusting anything that seems too perfect." Khalid moved in, his tone soft and soothing. "There's no need to make any decisions at this moment. Rest assured, my presence is with you. Text regardless of the circumstances, Layla, you will always have companionship from now on." The exchange with Khalid lingered in her mind, occupying her thoughts throughout the day. As she observed Yusuf in his playful moments, Layla pondered over his words. She had consistently constructed barriers around her heart, yet Khalid appeared resolute in his quest to dismantle them. Eventually, Khalid made his way to join them in the garden. He crouched next to Yusuf, who was constructing a tower with wooden blocks. "That tower's reaching new heights, my little friend," Khalid remarked with a grin. Yusuf glanced up at him, chuckling. "It will ascend to the heavens." Layla observed the exchange, her heart swelling with a blend of astonishment and affection. Khalid, who previously appeared aloof and serious, now exuded a sense of ease, almost paternal warmth. It was evident that he held a sincere fondness for Yusuf. That evening, Khalid extended an invitation to Layla for dinner on one of the palace terraces. The ambience was aglow with lantern light, while gentle melodies danced through the atmosphere. Layla paused for a moment, yet ultimately decided to accept the invitation. While they dined, Khalid shattered the quietude. "I understand that your experiences here have been challenging, but I want to assure you that I am committed to making sure Safia will never hold power over you or Yusuf again." "Thank you," Layla responded, her gaze fixed on her plate. "Yet, it's challenging to erase all that has transpired." Khalid acknowledged with a nod. "I understand that forgetting may not be possible, but I hope you can believe that I am here for you. I will always be." A stillness enveloped them, punctuated solely by the gentle strains of music drifting through the air. Then Khalid rose to his feet and reached out his hand toward Layla. "Join me in a dance." Layla gazed at him, taken aback. At that moment, he spoke softly, a warm smile gracing his lips. With a moment of uncertainty, she reached out and grasped his hand. Khalid led her to the heart of the terrace, where they started to sway beneath the twinkling stars. Their movements flowed with a gentle ease, and Layla recognized that, after what felt like an eternity, she finally felt a sense of safety. As they twirled gracefully, Khalid leaned in and murmured, "Layla, ever since you came, you've illuminated this space. I trust that you can perceive that. The absence of her reply hung in the air, laden with unspoken significance. Following the dance, Layla withdrew to her room, whereas Khalid lingered on the terrace, absorbed in contemplation. He realized that by revealing his emotions, he had embarked on a significant journey, yet he was aware that gaining Layla's trust would require patience and effort. In another part of the palace, Safia, aware of the increasing bond between the two, was meticulously plotting her next strategy. The fury in her gaze was undeniable, and she was resolute in her refusal to allow Layla to secure a position so near to Khalid. As Layla attempted to find solace in rest, a lingering discomfort held her in a state of wakefulness. She understood that her journey was just beginning, yet there was an undeniable sense of assurance in having Khalid by her side. The night lingered, and as Layla observed Yusuf in slumber, her mind wandered to Khalid's words. Could something fresh emerge from the turmoil? The following day might usher in further transformations, yet Layla was resolute in confronting whatever challenges lay ahead, united with those ready to stand by her side. The sun ascended above the desert horizon, casting vibrant hues of orange and gold across the sky. Layla stirred from her slumber, enveloped in an odd blend of relief and unease. Khalid's words lingered in her thoughts, and his invitation to dance the night before was forever imprinted in her heart. As she donned a delicate tunic, Layla cast a fleeting look at Yusuf, who remained in a serene slumber. He was the focal point of her existence, the motivation behind her readiness to confront any obstacle. Khalid had vowed to safeguard them, yet Layla understood that placing trust in someone was always a challenge. Descending the stairs for breakfast, she discovered Khalid seated at the table, cradling a cup of coffee and wearing a contemplative look. He welcomed her with a subtle smile. "Good morning," he murmured, his tone soft yet inviting. "Good morning," Layla said, settling into the chair opposite him. A moment of quiet lingered until Khalid shattered it. "Layla, I have something important to talk to you about." She furrowed her brow, picking up on a hint of unease in the atmosphere. "What is it exactly?" Khalid placed his cup on the table, locking eyes with her. Safia remains partially active. She still possesses supporters beyond the palace walls, individuals ready to assist her in creating chaos. Layla's stomach churned, yet she maintained her poise. "What implications does that hold for us?" Khalid clarified that it signifies the necessity for caution. "Please ensure that you and Yusuf remain inside the palace as much as you can. I'm enhancing security, yet I must not overlook Safia's motives." Layla nodded, fully grasping the gravity of the situation. "I will go to any lengths to safeguard my son. And I will go to any lengths to safeguard both of you," Khalid declared, his tone resolute. That afternoon, Layla chose to bring Yusuf to the garden, a place where he could play securely under the attentive gaze of the guards. She observed him darting through the blossoms, laughter spilling from his lips, reveling in the pure joy that every child deserves. The scene offered a fleeting sense of tranquility to Layla's heart. Yet, the tranquility was abruptly shattered as one of the guards hurriedly made his way over. "Miss Layla, Mr. Khalid would like to see you in the main hall right away." Layla's heart raced, yet she held her composure with grace. After directing the maid to attend to Yusuf, she trailed behind the guard into the hall. Upon her arrival, she discovered Khalid engaged in conversation with a serious-looking gentleman clad in formal wear. As she entered, Khalid glanced over and gestured for her to approach. "Layla, this is Mr. Farid," he stated. "He is a detective brought on board to assist us in addressing the situation with Safia." Layla acknowledged Farid with a subtle nod. "What insights have you uncovered up to this point?" Farid unveiled a folder, exposing a collection of documents within. "Safia maintains connections with prominent individuals beyond the palace walls, including a representative from the local police force. She intends to leverage these connections to create additional misleading evidence against you." A shiver coursed through Layla, sending a jolt down her spine. "This indicates that I remain at risk." "No need to be concerned," Khalid stepped in. "We're keeping a close watch on her every action, but it's crucial for you to understand the challenges we face." Layla expressed her gratitude to Khalid and Farid, Yet a lingering discomfort persisted within her. She recognized that Safia possessed a sharp intellect and a menacing edge. Later, Layla made her way back to Yusuf's room and discovered him sketching on a piece of paper. He grinned as she walked in. "Behold, Mama, it's just you and me amidst the blooms in the garden." Layla knelt to admire the drawing, her heart brimming with affection. "It is truly exquisite, my darling." She embraced him firmly, a silent vow echoing in her heart that she would go to any lengths to ensure his safety. That evening, Khalid gathered his closest confidants in the secluded chamber of the palace. He elaborated on the circumstances thoroughly, highlighting the critical need to reveal Safia and protect Layla and Yusuf. "She has inflicted enough harm," Khalid stated with conviction. "We must reveal her deceit before she gathers more supporters." A suggestion was made by one of the men to intercept Safia's messages in order to gain insight into her plans. Khalid consented and assigned Farid the responsibility of spearheading the operation. In a hidden corner of the city, Safia encountered a man whose presence was shrouded in foreboding. "We have little time," she said, handing him an envelope. "Ensure these documents reach the appropriate recipients." The man gave a slight nod before vanishing into the darkness of the night. Safia beamed, assured that triumph was within her grasp. As time passed, the atmosphere within the palace became increasingly charged. Khalid and Farid labored diligently to compile evidence against Safia, while Layla endeavored to keep Yusuf preoccupied and shielded from the chaos. At last, one afternoon, Farid delivered some uplifting news. A vital message was intercepted, he informed Khalid. "We have gathered sufficient evidence to unveil Safia." Khalid promptly summoned a family council meeting. Layla received an invitation, fully aware that both her life and Yusuf's hung in the balance. The council members convened in the main hall, their faces reflecting a gravity that filled the air. Khalid unveiled the evidence that Farid had meticulously gathered, showcasing messages that exposed Safia's sinister motives. Khalid declared that Safia has put not only Layla and Yusuf at risk but also tarnished the reputation of this palace. Her actions are beyond redemption. The council examined the evidence, and it wasn't long before they arrived at a conclusion. Safia faced the official decree of banishment from the palace, destined to be delivered to the authorities to account for her transgressions. Layla experienced a profound sense of relief upon hearing the verdict. Finally, the danger was being eradicated. Safia was led out of the palace, the guards' vigilant gazes following her every step. Her expression conveyed a blend of rage and embarrassment, yet she made no attempt to fight back. With the doors shutting softly behind her, Layla experienced a profound sense of relief, as if a heavy burden had finally been released from her shoulders. Khalid moved closer, his gaze revealing a mix of relief and resolve. "At last, you and Yusuf can embrace tranquility," he remarked with a soft smile. Layla nodded, deeply touched. "I appreciate everything you've done, Khalid." "I acted in accordance with my principles," he responded, "and I will do everything necessary to guarantee your safety from this point forward." That evening, Layla perched on the balcony of her room, her eyes fixed on the twinkling stars above. After what seemed like an eternity, a true feeling of tranquility washed over her. Yusuf drifted into a serene slumber, while Khalid honored his vow to keep them safe. Yet Layla understood that the future could still present obstacles. The days that followed enveloped Layla in a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in a long time. Safia found herself exiled from the palace, while Khalid honored his vow to protect both her and Yusuf. Yet, Layla remained unable to dismiss the sense that something grander loomed ahead. One morning, as I sipped my coffee on the terrace, Khalid came over, appearing more at ease than he typically did. He clutched a small envelope in his hands, his eyes reflecting an unusual sparkle. "Layla," he started, extending the envelope toward her. "Please take a moment to read this." Layla carefully opened the envelope, revealing a beautifully handwritten letter inside. The language, while straightforward, held a profound emotional significance. A formal message arrived from Khalid, extending her the option to depart the palace alongside Yusuf if she desired. "What is the reason for this gift?" she inquired, her brow furrowed in confusion. Khalid explained that you have never been a prisoner here. You have the autonomy to decide what is most suitable for you and your son. However, I want you to understand that if you choose to remain, this palace will forever be your sanctuary. Layla gazed at Khalid, her heart swirling with appreciation and doubt. What if I'm uncertain about the best option to take? Khalid moved in, locking his gaze with hers. So, I urge you to place your trust in me, not merely as a protector, but as someone who genuinely holds you dear. While Layla reflected on Khalid's words, Yusuf frolicked in the garden, his laughter ringing out as he dashed about with a small wooden airplane that Khalid had specially made for him. The setting was straightforward yet rich with significance. Layla felt a sense of assurance about Yusuf's safety in this place, a certainty she had never experienced in any other setting. Still, the idea of relying on Khalid left her feeling uneasy. She had always battled in solitude, and the prospect of letting someone become such a vital part of her existence felt both unfamiliar and intimidating. That evening, Khalid orchestrated a delightful dinner on the terrace. The table was beautifully decorated with flowers and candles, while a soft breeze enhanced the inviting ambience. Layla paused, weighing her options before ultimately choosing to attend the invitation. What is the purpose of all this? She inquired as she took a seat. Khalid responded with a genuine smile, eager to commemorate our newfound freedom from threats. And above all, I wish to honor you and Yusuf. Layla found herself unable to suppress a smile. Despite her careful nature, she couldn't help but acknowledge that Khalid brought a sense of ease to everything. As the night unfolded, their conversation meandered through a myriad of topics. Their journeys prior to crossing paths, the obstacles they encountered, and the aspirations they continued to cherish. For the first time, Layla sensed a genuine trust in Khalid. I realize it's premature to ponder what lies ahead, Khalid remarked, interrupting the quiet moment. Rest assured, whatever path you decide to take, I will be there for you. Layla inhaled deeply, sensing the gravity of his words. I appreciate everything you've done, Khalid. In the days that ensued, Layla embarked on a journey of discovery, seeking out fresh opportunities. She sought more than just protection. She yearned to create something meaningful for herself and for Yusuf. Khalid, seeing her resolve, urged her to chase whatever would lead to her joy. One morning, he guided her to a quaint hall inside the palace that had remained untouched for years. He suggested that you might transform this into something uniquely yours. Perhaps a place for Yusuf and other children to learn, or a venue dedicated to the art of dance. Layla stood quietly, profoundly touched by the act. She realized that Khalid was revealing to her that she had the potential to be more than just a visitor. She could truly make a significant impact in this space. It's truly stunning, she finally remarked. I would be thrilled to engage in something like this. As Layla set about envisioning her plans for the hall, Khalid observed her from afar, a deepening sense of contentment swelling within him. He had always recognized Layla's strength and determination, but witnessing her flourish under his care filled him with warmth. However, Khalid was aware that obstacles remained in his path. His role within the palace and his ties to Layla might ignite fresh tensions, and he must be prepared to confront them. One afternoon, while Layla was diligently focused in the hall, Yusuf burst in, clutching a piece of paper with excitement. Mother, behold my drawing. Layla picked up the paper and noticed a straightforward yet significant drawing. There they were, her, Yusuf, and Khalid, united in a moment of togetherness, with the sun radiating brightly above them. It's beautiful, my love, she said, embracing her son tightly. Khalid, freshly arrived in the room, beamed at the sight of the drawing. It seems we've already become a family, he said with a playful tone. Layla gazed at him, and in that moment, she sensed that it might genuinely be within reach. The next week, Layla awoke to a tranquility she hadn't experienced in ages. The assurance Khalid offered and Yusuf's laughter warmed her heart with optimism. That morning, as she wandered through the garden, Khalid came toward her, his expression a mix of earnestness and affection. Layla, would you allow me the pleasure of your company for a few hours today? He inquired, reaching out his hand. Where are we headed? she inquired, taken aback. It's a mystery, he said with a cryptic grin. Khalid led her into the vast desert, where an unexpected oasis emerged as if conjured from thin air. The scene was enchanting, with palm trees dancing softly in the wind and a lake mirroring the heavens above. At the heart of the scene stood a table, tastefully adorned with white blooms and flickering candles. Khalid, what is this all about? Layla inquired, filled with wonder. I want this moment to be unforgettable, he said, gesturing for her to take a seat as he pulled out a chair. At the dinner table, Khalid shared how Layla and Yusuf had changed the course of his life. Prior to your arrival, this palace existed merely as a vacant edifice, he remarked. But now it feels like a true home, and I want to formalize that sentiment. Layla gazed at him, her brow furrowed in confusion, until Khalid rose and retrieved a small box from his pocket. He sank to his knees, his gaze locked onto hers. Layla, since you stepped into my world, everything has transformed. Your presence has illuminated my most challenging moments and revealed the essence of love and bravery. I wish to share my life with you forever. Will you be my partner for life? Layla stood frozen, her emotions overwhelming her as tears cascaded down her cheeks. With a voice thick with feeling, she answered, Yes, Khalid, I will. Khalid beamed as he gently placed the ring on her finger, a slender gold band adorned with a tiny diamond that glimmered in the sunlight. He rose to his feet and enveloped her in a warm embrace, culminating in a tender, heartfelt kiss. The upcoming months were devoted to the intricate planning of the wedding. Yusuf, brimming with enthusiasm, engaged in every aspect. The palace became a scene straight out of a fairy tale, with gardens embellished by floral arches and lights that shimmered like distant stars. On the momentous occasion, Layla donned a white gown adorned with exquisite gold accents. As she strolled down the aisle, her delicate veil danced in the gentle breeze, while Yusuf, with a sense of pride, held her hands firmly. Khalid stood at the altar, clad in a flawless ceremonial tunic, anticipation etched on his face as he awaited her arrival. His smile radiated tranquility, yet his eyes revealed the profound feelings of the occasion. As their gazes locked, Layla experienced a profound release, as if the burdens of her history had dissipated into thin air. The officiant spoke eloquently of togetherness, as Khalid gently placed a new ring upon Layla's finger. As she reciprocated his gesture, an overwhelming feeling of completeness enveloped them both. Following the ceremony, the reception took place in the enchanting palace gardens. Attendees twirled, chuckled, and rejoiced in the couple's bond. Under the shimmering stars, Layla and Khalid twirled gracefully, as Yusuf darted between the tables, distributing delicate bouquets of flowers. Khalid, Layla whispered as they danced, I am grateful for everything, for providing me with a home and a fresh start. It is I who must express my gratitude, Khalid responded, his voice brimming with feeling. Your presence has filled my life with happiness and purpose. As time passed, the years unfolded, and the palace thrived with vitality. Layla converted a section of the palace into an educational haven for the local youth, while Khalid devoted his efforts to broadening his humanitarian initiatives. Yusuf's childhood was filled with joy, enveloped in warmth and safety. He found joy in assisting Layla at the school and frequently joined Khalid on various trips, gaining insights into responsibility and leadership. Each day, Layla was convinced that her choice to trust Khalid and embrace his love was indeed the correct one. The past, despite its challenges, has forged a path toward a future brimming with love, hope, and joy. What are your thoughts on the tale of Layla and Khalid? We'd love to hear your insights in the comments section. Please provide a rating for this story on a scale from 0 to 10. How would you rate it? Join us by subscribing to the channel and activating notifications to stay updated on all our narratives. Don't miss out on more touching stories by clicking here on the end screen.